What's up, y'all? Welcome back to the channel. Just watched Jurassic World Rebirth. It's my review, it's my reaction. The movie stars Scarlett Johansson and Mahershala Ali. It's directed by Garrett Edwards. The movie's about 2 hours and 13 minutes long, and I believe this movie was written by one of the co-writers of the original Jurassic Park movie, the very first movie. Um, get straight to the point. You, uh, so the movie is about this crew. Um, they go back to the Jurassic Island, the original park, to get some genetic fluid for a pharmaceutical company, and they have to get this fluid from the DNA of 3 specific dinosaurs to cure heart disease. And they ran into some trouble along the way. So pretty much that's the premise of the movie. The movie, like the previous installments, it's got its humor moments. It's an adventure. It's fantasy. It's sci-fi. Based on those elements, like I said, this movie is no different from the 3 previous installments. There's the humor, there's the adventure, there's the edgy scenes where somebody's about to get eaten by a dinosaur, and there are a few casualties that met their demise of a few dinosaurs. Um, is it worth going to the movies to watch? Well, that depends. You know, you're a big fan of the franchise and you love the series, you're big on dinosaurs, especially if your kids enjoy it, then take them to go see the movie. Especially if you're real peculiar on which platform you want to watch it on, whether it be IMAX or Dolby or even in 3D. You ain't got to take my word for it. You can go check the movie out and make sense of it for yourself. Now, I'm going to give you my verdict, a big hard pass, because I don't understand why we have to keep going back to this island. I don't get it. Like, what do we keep going back to this island? So I guess the next Jurassic Park movie, if somebody runs out of toilet paper, we're just going to go back to the island and get the state-of-the-art toilet paper so we're going to put people's lives at risk to go get this toilet paper, because this one specific toilet paper is going to change the world, so everybody can just wipe their with it. That, I'm just saying that will probably be the next Jurassic Park movie. Everybody's always looking for some kind of way to looking for an excuse to just go back to this island. Let's do something different. So like I said, a hard pass. I really wasn't feeling it. It's the same stuff, different agenda, different objective, different mission. And it's, at this point, it's a different group of people. You can check this movie out for yourself and make sense of it for yourself. Now, you know what I'm about to do. I'm going to spoil this mess. So you can get off the channel. If you haven't seen the movie, I'm warning you right now, you can get off the channel and go watch this movie. Come back, leave your comments down below. If you already saw this movie, you can share your thoughts, share what you like, share what you didn't like. Now, I will give you my pros and cons. My pros, like I said, the humor is definitely there. The cast did their thing. There's a, it's pretty much like the other franchises. There is some, you're gonna enjoy the excitement of this adventure that they're on, and that's pretty much my pros with this movie. I did like the effects. Now, my cons, which I will explain in the spoiler, what I didn't like about the movie was the writing. Um, I didn't see it was pretty weird, but I'm gonna explain everything in the spoiler. So, uh, if you don't want to be spoiled, I'm warning you right now. Go watch the movie if you want. If you choose to watch it, if not, that's okay. You can wait for it to come on streaming, but it's nothing worth rushing to the movie theaters for unless you love the excitement, you want a good popcorn flick to watch, and your kids got a huge love for dinosaurs. So now I'm about to spoil it. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Here we go. This movie takes place in the opening of the original Jurassic Park. So it's at a location on the other side of the island of the original park, and there's a lab where they are experimenting with cross. They're experimenting with dinosaur DNA, and they're just mixing and matching everything. And they focus on and as I always do when I do the spoilers, I'm only going to it's a lot to tell, but I'm going to get to the significant parts of the movie that I'm only going to put the emphasis on, especially the BS, the cons, the downside. So straight to it. Um, they take you back to the original Jurassic Park, and it's this lab that's just outside of the park where you see these doctors, they're experimenting on dinosaur DNA, and the camera pans to focus and view of one particular dinosaur that's just sitting in a container, whereas these other doctors go to check the status of this one particular mutated dinosaur. This is a facility where they have all the mutated dinosaurs, all their genetic freaks on this one part of the island. So these doctors, they go in to check on this one particular dinosaur that they dubbed the D Rex. And this one particular doctor who's careless, he creates a final destination moment, right? So he's chewing on this Snickers bar or chocolate bar, you pick one, and the wrapper gets sucked into this tiny little ventilation system that's a part of this hydraulic door, this door. And the doctors go in, and because this tiny little piece of wrapper gets sucked into this ventilation, it triggers the security system of this container this corridor that they have to go through, where they have to decontaminate themselves from, it's always a decontamination corridor, and this wrapper goes up in there and it triggers the security system. So the security system shuts down the entire facility. So what's going to happen when when the security system when everything pretty much shuts down, everything has to reset. Basically, it inadvertently unlocks these doors to these dinos, these animals that they had in captivity on this one particular part of the island. So you see these doctors rushing back, and red alert signals. Everybody's trying to leave the facility, and the D-Rex catches up with the one doctor because the door closed on him. And the only way they show you how to get in, somebody on the other side of the door, it's a two-way trigger and two people have to open up the door. And the lady, she doesn't take a chance on opening up the door because she sees this monstrosity, this funny looking thing, with this funny big giant dinosaur behind this guy, and you already know what happens. He meets his demise, and now we cut to the present time, which takes place, let's say, maybe 7, 8 years after the events of Jurassic World. I believe it was Dominion, where so they explain to you that the dinosaurs that were roaming the earth, that got free and they started roaming the earth, they explain to you that a few of them are dying from being out of their natural habitat, and because they were genetically created. So they explained that the majority, all of these dinosaurs, over a period of time, started dying. They were held in captivity. They were a part of these zoos. They were, spectacles, and people was holding them up for pets, or whatever. But they explained that the dinosaurs are dying, and they all um, relocated or was placed into a tropical climate of the globe. Just any place belong the equator, just that below that line, just in tropical regions where they decided to go and migrate. So this one doctor, who was played by, I had to take some notes. So the doctor, you meet Scarlett Johansson. She meets this guy, um, who was played by Rupert Friend. The dude's name is Martin. Scarlett Johansson's character is Zora, and this he convinces her to take this mission, and he really doesn't give her the details because she's hesitant about doing it. She wants to talk numbers, so he convinces her, and they go meet this other doctor who specializes in DNA. His name is Dr. Loomis, who is played by Jonathan Bailey. So they meet this doctor, and they start talking about uh, Rupert's character. He's in charge of this pharmaceutical company, and they found a way to come up with a cure for heart disease. And they let Scarlett Johansson know, Zora, they got to extract some genetic fluid from three of the largest dinosaurs, and there are three specific dinosaurs that they have to get this fluid from, these samples, to create this cure. So they rally up and they meet Mahershala Ali, and Mahershala Ali is Scarlett Johansson's Zora, Zora, her old friend, mercenary, as well as the character named Bobby. He was I believe his name is Ed Skirrin, if I can pronounce his name right. But he played the main villain in the very first Deadpool. He's the other mercenary. So they kind of they try to hustle Martin into increasing the numbers for their mercenary services. But the deal was already, and they come to a deal, they come to an arrangement, and so now they go off on this adventure. So and a part of the stipulation is that they have to do this under the radar, without the federal government, without all these people knowing, because there's regulations around the world that they can't go into certain zones of the globe because it's inhabited by dinosaurs. And you're pretty much on your own. If they find out that you violated these policies, then you're facing jail time. So they have to do all of this stuff under the radar. And we cut to the scene where you get to this family. And I'm trying to figure out, you know, I get it. People have personal fantasies, personal adventures, but this fantasy is like out in the middle of the ocean on this little yacht, this little sailboat. And I don't think they have any idea of where they're going. They're just out there sailing, just having a good old time. The father's name is Ruben. Um, he has two daughters, Isabella, and I believe the girl's name was Teresa. And Teresa's boyfriend, Xavier. And Xavier is kind of like a butthole. towards the family. And they encounter the mosasaurs. While they're out in the water, they decide, the father's been manning the boat, and he asks Teresa's boyfriend, he asks Xavier for help. Look, and the father's like, at this point it's useless. They want to sit out in the middle of the ocean, out in the middle of nowhere, and they see a boat that's capsized off in the distance, and they encounter the mosasaurus, who flips their boat over. And so now they're stranded out in the middle of the ocean, and they manage to get a radio where they can call for help. So now we go back to Scarlett Johansson and crew. They're pretty much 3 miles off the coast of Jurassic Park to get to the facility, and they're trying to, and they get the hailing call, they get the SOS call, the emergency call from the radio. So now they're trying to decide whether, let's go to the island and get these samples and then go save this family. Screw the family, let's get the samples and go about our merry way. Or let's go save the family and then go get these samples. And Mahershala makes a decision, it's my boat. He puts Martin in his place. This is my boat. We going to save the family first. Then we'll go back to the mission. So they managed to rescue the family and make their way back to the island, back to Jurassic Park, where they encounter the Mosasaurus, and they managed to get a sample from the Mosasaurus. They have these little darts. They self extract the fluid, and then they launch the tubes that go airborne on these tiny little parachutes, and that's how they're retrieving these samples. So they get the first samples from the Mosasaurus, and the Mosasaurus follows them to the island, and the Mosasaurus has alerted assistance from the Spinosaurus, and now they're ambushed and attacked by the Mosasaurus and the Spinosaurus in the water, which leads to the boat being shipwrecked. They lose 2 casualties on the boat, where Ruben and his family, they make it out alive. Zora, Scarlett Johansson, Mahershala Ali, Rupert, their characters, they managed to live, and one of the other guys manages to survive the shipwreck also. So they get separated on the island, whereas you see the family, they decide to camp out. Xavier decides to go pay the water bill, where he was about to be ambushed by some crossbreed raptors, and pterodactyl pretty much swoops down, and inadvertently he saves his life because he's off taking a piss. Isabella befriends a tiny little herbivore baby dinosaur, who she named Dolores. So she starts toting the little baby dinosaur around on the adventure. Meanwhile, Scarlett Johansson and crew, they come across large herbivores called the Titanosaurus, where they retrieve a sample from those dinosaurs. And now they have to go get another sample from the Osteosaurus. I believe I pronounced it right, which is pretty much, they're like the larger pterodactyls, flying carnivores that they have to go get the sample from. So we cut back. So after the scene where they get the fluid from the Titanosaurus, we cut back to the family with Ruben and his family, and they encounter this T-Rex. They try to get this raft and go looking for, if they can find anybody, this group of villagers, which was some type of rumor, if they can find somebody on the island. And they find a boat, and they encounter the T-Rex, and the T-Rex follows them through the river, and this little edgy scene to where they manage to survive this mess, and the T-Rex is floating in the water, so you get to see some of the capabilities that are not known to these dinosaurs. The T-Rex is swimming in the water. You see cross genetics of all of these dinosaurs doing things outside of their ability that they're not really known to be doing. So they escape. They managed to escape the wrath of the T-Rex, and we cut back to the scene with Scarlett Johansson and crew. They're instead of them climbing up this mountain, they decide to go to the top of the mountain and climb down. So Scarlett Johansson and Dr. Loomis, Zora and Dr. Loomis, decide to scale the mountain along with another mercenary who's with them, and they decide to extract the last sample from the baby Osteosaurus from the eggs. And the mama bird comes in to check on her babies, and she is pissed. So Mahershala Ali, his character Duncan, Duncan and Martin, they find another way. Duncan discovers that they didn't have to rappel to the side. They find a group of stairs that leads towards this nest, and they discovered that there was actually some type of Aztec villagers that used to be on that island. So they see the bricks and stairs that were like, man-made structure. So they managed to get them out of the nest, but the other mercenary met his demise as well. From when Duncan and Martin tried to pull him back up from being repelled, they almost lose this sample, but they managed to get the sample from that scene. So now it's nighttime, and they managed to regroup at this one facility. And Scarlett Johansson, her character Zora, she mentions that she has a backup plan, that they have a crew, an evac crew that's scheduled to meet them just before sunrise, and they have to get to the extraction point. They can't waste no time. So everybody manages to regroup and meet up in the middle of the dark in this one facility at night. And they come across these other dinosaurs. They're like a mix of walking lizards with wings. And these dinosaurs, they get separated for a moment. And these dinosaurs are chasing them. And so right when the helicopter shows up and they're scanning the area to look for them, and they only have a 2-minute window, because if they're not seen, then they're just going to leave. So I believe Bobby manages to, get their attention by shooting a flare. So in the midst of the smoke and the fog that you see, all you see is the helicopter, the spotlight that's coming back to the helipad, only to discover that the D-Rex is chewing up this helicopter once everything comes into view out of the smoke, out of the fog. The D-Rex has the helicopter in his mouth. And so there goes their rescue party. So now they got to figure out another way to get off the island. So they discover these tunnels that go all throughout the island. Prior to that scene, we're going to get to this plot twist. And so let me back up a little bit. So right when everybody meets up, I believe Teresa, there was a moment on the boat before they got shipwrecked, when they was being ambushed and under attack of the Mosasaurus and the Spinosaurus. She was hanging, she was on the boat and she was hanging off the boat during that encounter. and she asked Martin to help pull her up back into the boat when they was under this attack. And Scarlett Johansson noticed it, but she wasn't in position where she can get to her like Martin was. So for the moment, Teresa was like, I can't wait to see that doctor again because I'm pissed. So now everybody regrouped. We're at this facility, and Teresa is about to go the fuck off on Martin for leaving her hanging like that. And Martin pulls out a gun. So Duncan and Zora, they're like, if that's the case, what's the gun for? Like, what are we doing? So they pretty much figured out that Martin, because of the plot twist, Martin is the true villain of this movie. And his plan was to basically leave the mercenaries and take his take his fluid, take his resources back to the US and leave the mercenaries for dead. Some selfishness. So he never planned on taking the mercenaries back with him. He never planned on paying these guys. He just basically was using them to get what he needed so that he can go back to the States and make a name for himself, because he discovered he has the resources for a cure and he can help humanity. And he reveals that this company he works for, they want to use these dinosaurs for their advantage, so that they can learn from them and get more from them to save, for the benefit of humanity, to save people. And he wants to make a name for himself, to be like the first person to discover all of this stuff. So they get separated by the attack of these mutated lizards with wings, and they get separated in this underground, this tunnel. So now I'm bringing you back up to speed. The rescue helicopter crashes due to the D-Rex, and they're trying to catch up with Martin. Martin gets and Martin takes this truck, and he's off to the pier to get on the last working boat that's on the facility. So they're racing to get to this pier, and they get to this little gate, and Isabella is the only one who's small enough to crawl through these bars to open up this gate so that they can get to this boat. And they meet the D-Rex. Well, at the same time, one of the lizards, who's atop of this one tunnel, this corridor. So there's a moment where they're racing to get this door open. Isabella opens the gate. The Jeep catches the attention of the D-Rex, and Martin meets his demise. And you see his arm comes down, still attached to the suitcase. And they get the suitcase. They have the genetic fluid. They got the suitcase, and now they get on this boat. And Isabella is like just standing there, and I don't know why this little girl is just move and keep up with everybody. And the D-Rex has her in his crosshairs. So Mahershala Ali, Duncan, he gets this thing's attention, and the D-Rex is attracted by light. So he grabs a flare and he draws the attention away so that everybody can get on this boat and roll out. And when they thought he was dead, he actually survived the attack. So while they're fleeing away on this boat, they see a flare adjacent off in the distance, and they realize that Duncan is still alive. They go back, pick him up, and so now Zora and Dr. Loomis, now they have to figure out what they're going to do with this genetic fluid that they have now, and they're going to have to find somebody who who's willing to take it, because the person they can't get paid. They went through all of that, and the person who was supposed to pay them pretty much double crossed them. So now they're left to figure out what to do with this with the genetic fluid that they got from these dinosaurs. And that's pretty much the end of it. That's the end of it. They go on this adventure. They rescue this family. They get separated. They get their samples. They regroup. The plot twist: the person who was in charge of this little secret squirrel mission never intended to pay the mercenary for their services, and basically all of that was like for nothing. That's it. That's the little movie. I didn't like the fact that I think the writing was a little lazy with them explaining the status of the dinosaurs, because the dinosaurs at this point, um, I understand they were genetically created, but the dinosaurs at this point, man, like the world should have been tore up. Like you still got structures, like New York, all these places are still intact, like in you would expect the world to be overran by dinosaurs, and people are like pretty much like a zombie apocalypse, but it didn't, it never came to that. They explained that somehow they gained control. The world leaders gained control. It came down to a decision, and tried to they got control of this dinosaur situation long enough for the dinosaurs to die. They were holding these dinosaurs for to be test subjects, and that's it. That's it. Um, so that's your movie right there. So you can waste your time and go watch this movie, or you get bored, you want to go check it out anyway, you want to be entertained, you can go check it out and check it out for yourself. Until then, that's it. That's all I got for you. New to the channel, like, share, subscribe, hit that notification bell to be updated on more content. That being said, take care of yourself.